Shit, Tupac's greatest hits. Speaking of changes, I wanna change this game like I'm losing in Madden, 30-6. Like that, y'all. Some people they fiend for things they've already seen. I think they wanted me to be like that, y'all. But it wasn't my scene. I started doing these things that made them say they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that, y'all.
What is up, Alex? And welcome back to Spokast. Today on the podcast, we have Julia Zimny. She is Miss Spokane 2024, and she was recently crowned just 2 weeks ago at the Fox Theater. And it was so cool interviewing Julia and learning about her journey and learning that there's so much to her story than being named Miss Spokane. I mean, she's a freaking Juris Doctor, practicing lawyer, living right here in Spokane, Washington. And on top of that, she's a 3-time marathon finisher. She's a mountaineer who's she's a mountaineer who's conquered some of our region's most iconic peaks like Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, and she's a recent graduate of Gonzaga University School of Law. She also went there to get her undergrad, and she's just a person in our community who just cares deeply for the people and cares deeply for the people in our community. And she's just someone who is in Spokane doing amazing things and the perfect example of a great Spokast guest. She cares about this community and the people that live here. And on this episode, you're going to learn all about that, and you're going to dive into her adventures and her passions and how she's going to use her title of Miss Spokane for the betterment of our city. And I just found this conversation so inspiring and uplifting, and I can't wait for you to hear it. And I got to thank Julia for reaching out and asking to be on the podcast. It's a great example of someone reaching out and saying, hey, I'm interested in being on the podcast. And I kind of went a little deeper and learned about her. And I was like, she's a perfect guest. And Julia, I'm excited for the future of what you're going to bring to our Lilac City. So before we get into the show, I need to give a shout out to all of my Patreon supporters. And they are Nathan O'Brien, Enrique de la Novelle, Joel Williamson, Joe Van Voorhis, Elizabeth Geyer, Abby Pointer, Gina Campbell, Tyler Poole, Judy Pointer, Amber Sparks, Luke Baumgarten, Valerie Ozier, Nick Spanger, and Elizabeth and Bill Pointer. Thank you all again so much for being Patreon supporters. If you want to become a Spokastanite and support what I'm doing here at Spokast, visit patreon.com/Spokast. Well, I will not keep you any longer. Here is Miss Spokane, Julia Zimny. This is Spokast. We'll start there. I'm here with Julia Zimny, the now Miss Spokane. You just won the crown a week and a half ago?
Yeah, about. It goes fast.
That is... I want to talk about all that in the second half of the podcast. But first I want to talk about what brought you to Spokane. You're not originally from here, right?
No, I'm actually from Western Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have 3 older siblings. And so my oldest brother decided to be a Zag himself.
Yeah.
And then from then on, my sister followed in his footsteps. And then my other brother followed. And then I just kind of ended up here as well, going to Gonzaga for undergrad. And
nice.
Then I did leave for about 1.5 years and worked in Seattle doing Title IX work. So sexual assault investigations.
Oh, wow.
As well as emergency management on a college campus over there. And then I decided to go to law school.
That's awesome. So you came here to go to Gonzaga.
Yeah.
What was your what did you get your bachelor's in?
Creative writing.
Oh, wow.
I wrote poems for 4 years, but I loved it.
Were you did you want to become an English teacher?
I didn't know at that point. I really didn't. No, I had no idea. Law school was undergrad was kind of a blur for me. And then when I was studying abroad, I just took a bunch of English courses and I loved it. My mom was an English major. Okay. She taught English. And I think I was just kind of at the point where, well, when I'm done with this, if I need to get a master's in teaching, then I'll do that with the scholarships I got from competing in Miss America. And then I actually, my senior year of college, worked at a suicide and mental health hotline here in Spokane for Frontier Behavioral Health.
Yeah.
And then that kind of catapulted me into working for emergency management on a college campus, as well as in Title IX sexual assault investigations for a college campus in Seattle.
Wow. That's amazing work. Like that made you want to become a lawyer. Like that made you want to go to law school at least.
Yeah. So I ended up doing the Title IX stuff in Seattle, and then I actually volunteered as well in my free time with the Seattle Police Department, and I was a part of they called it the victim support team. So I would volunteer a couple times a month to respond alongside law enforcement officers to complaints and calls and reports of domestic violence or sex trafficking or sexual assault or child abuse. And I would be the person that kind of sat down with the victim and talked them through it. And that was really what catapulted me into law. And I just sat there one day and I was like, I just feel like I could do more for these people.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to law school at Gonzaga.
That's so you came back to Spokane.
I did.
I always say Spokane's a vortex. Like it just like you come here and then it just sucks you back in.
Yeah.
I want to rewind just a little bit because I love Gonzaga. I wasn't born and raised in Spokane, but I moved here in 1990 and I was here for the first Gonzaga run. And I've been a big fan since. I do a podcast with former Zag Adam Morrison but like I always love asking former Zags or Zag alum when they went, like what years were you there? Like what run were you there? Were you there when they were number one for the first time in the nation?
I think I was. Yes, because we had a giant cake.
Okay.
A giant one cake in our like main student hall. Gosh. Okay,
Did you go to many games? Did you go to games?
I went to a couple, but I am a huge sports fan. Like one of my goals is to connect with like the Spokane Indians, the Spokane Chiefs, and the new Velocity team.
I went to the first game the other day.
I saw that and it looked so fun. There were so many people there.
Yes, it's soccer fans are like the best fans because they're all about community. They're all about like supporting each other. They're not like, and it's a brand new team, so it's not like there's not like a ton of like there's passion for a team being in Spokane, and not so much passion for like the team winning yet. It's more just like but they
won.
Let's go yeah, exactly. They won. They scored 2 goals in the first like 15 minutes, which was awesome, and then like a lot of soccer games, and it just ended with those 2 goals to 1. So it was I don't love watching soccer, but I love watching it. I mean, it's fun watching, but like it's just like you got to teach the fans. Like we got to do cheers. We need to get a lot more passion because at one point, some points, not one, many points, you could hear a pin drop in this stadium because they really didn't know what people were cheering for.
Yeah, they need a leader. They need to elect someone.
We need section leaders. Have you been to Sounders game?
I have. Yeah, I've actually. I don't have a lot of friends that are very into soccer at all because I think when you're a soccer fan, you are a soccer fan, and then if you're not, you're just like, I have no desire whatsoever to go to that. Yeah. So I would actually go to games by myself, like when I lived in Seattle, but it was so fun. And that kind of goes into like what I was going to say of like, I adore sports games, but I am a sit and watch kind of gal. I'm just like, there for the fun. You're not like,
so being from like Seattle, did you go to a lot of Seahawks games?
I've never been to a Seahawks game.
You've never been to a Seahawks game? Oh,
They're
man.
so expensive. But
they are.
I do watch football.
Yeah.
I used to be a really big Tom Brady fan. And
obviously. Oh, God, never mind. Let's not talk about that.
I know. I think I'm going to get a bunch of haters now, a bunch of hate mail in my DMs.
I know a lot of people that love Tom Brady. He was a very good quarterback, and he's also a very attractive man. But he's also a really good guy too. It seems like I don't know him personally.
I wish I knew him personally.
Right?
But he is such an athlete. I mean, he's been to the Super Bowl for half of his career. And I think that is just something that really no one else. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is getting kind of there, but I just think that's something that not a lot of athletes can say.
Yeah. So going back to law, getting your so what there's a whole, how many years is that?
7
to be so 4 years of undergrad,
yes,
and then 3 years of law school. Okay.
Yes.
And you got what's a Juris Doctor?
Juris Doctor is just what they call it when you graduate law school. Yeah.
And is that recent, or how long ago was that?
I graduated last May.
Oh wow! So it's been a year, and then so you have to pass the bar to get that.
Yes. So not to get the Juris Doctor. Technically, you have to pass the bar exam to be a full-fledged practicing attorney, but they have something called the limited license. So if you are supervised or you work in an office with other attorneys, then you're able to practice law still without that bar pass. I unfortunately did not pass it the first time that I took it, and I actually just took it again about 2 weeks ago. But I have been practicing with my limited license, which has been great. I've adored it. I'm so happy with my choice in my career, and I'm again grateful to the Miss Spokane organization, but also the Miss America organization, or I guess it's called Opportunity now, but for providing me scholarship dollars to help me get to that point.
Nice. So you get to. So I guess that kind of isn't part of your story. Like you started competing in pageants back when you were 17 years old. Like Washington, for what I understand, is not like there's not much of a pageant culture here. Is that fair to say? Or what's the pageant culture like in Washington?
It's a little more hidden.
Okay.
Yeah, a little less accepted, I've noticed. But compared to the South, it's really big there. But I mean, I'm not going to go so far to say that it's not competitive, because I have been to state before. I represented my teeny tiny hometown in Western Washington at state, I think like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was very competitive.
I shouldn't say it's not competitive. I should have said like you just don't hear. I don't hear about it much. You don't hear about
it. Yeah, like, no, exactly.
I was thinking more like community wise. Like there's just like there's not like my daughter is 8 years old, and if she lived in the South, she would be all about pageants probably. But in Spokane, like she does not know the first thing about it. The best example I have of all of this is like people don't know about is that little girl in Little Miss Sunshine when she finds out when she's watching the Miss America pageant. And so you started when you're 17. Did you do Miss Teen?
No. Okay. So at that point, if you were 7, it's changed so much since then. They've had such a growing period since I've started. So they even had swimsuit back then, and they don't even have that now. So I did do the Miss division. That was 17 was like the first year that you would be involved in the Miss division. And so I started then, and then I didn't win. I didn't place. And then I came to Spokane for college at Gonzaga, and then I competed for Miss Spokane then, didn't place. And then I decided to take a couple of years off. I just felt that I needed to focus on school, and that I needed to focus on maybe growing my individual self a little bit more before I competed against other people, I guess.
What is it like commitment to like competing in a pageant? What are you doing to prep for a competition?
For me, I prep a lot with, so I have to lay out the different phases if I'm going to like go into the preparation. So so it's a lot. So right now we have the fitness phase, but we didn't have that for a while. They did swimsuit, and they were like, no, like we're not going to have like grown men judges give you a score on like being in a swimsuit and heels. And so they tossed that out the window, and then they just didn't have anything for that. But now we have fitness. So it really highlights what you've done to stay fit, to be comfortable in your own body. For me, I ran 3 different marathons, 2 of which were in Spokane.
Which ones did you do in Spokane? I don't know if you know this about me. I'm like a runner.
Really?
I used to like, I used to be a Bloomsday ambassador.
Oh, nice.
We don't need to talk too much about this, everyone. But from 2019 to 2024, I ran every day for 5 years. And so I qualified for the Boston Marathon.
That is on my goal. That's on my goal
and
list.
So I love running, and running marathons in Spokane it can be, there's different versions. There's different ones. Which ones did you do?
Well, first, I'm like so jealous that you qualified for Boston.
I did a downhill marathon to qualify.
Oh, that still counts. That's so hard to qualify. So I did, the first marathon I ever ran was the Windermere Marathon, which is actually a sponsor of the Miss Spokane organization.
That's the first marathon I ever ran.
Really?
It's what inspired me to be like, I can qualify for Boston.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. The Windermere is great.
So I did Windermere, and then a couple years later, I was like, my bragging rights are up, so I have to run another one.
Yeah.
And then I ran one in Seattle, and then after that, not this last October, but the October prior, I ran just the Spokane Marathon.
Oh, the Spokane Marathon is beautiful. It's beautiful, but it's also like, it's so hard. I've never ran the Bloomsday. I mean, not Bloomsday. I've never ran the Spokane Marathon, but I've ran the half and I've ran all the pieces of it, but not in a marathon. And it can be kind of hard.
I think you could do it.
I
you
could
qualified
do it. No,
for Boston.
I know. That was 4 years ago now. I'm out of running shape. I literally stopped running at the beginning of this year. Like I just ended my streak. So now I run like every other day sometimes. And I started trying to get back into my running shape, and I'm like winded. I'm like, oh, I should never have stopped.
See, for me, I don't so much have a problem with getting winded as I do with my knees. My knees just kill me.
Yeah. So you've also climbed. Did you?
I am a mountaineer.
Mountaineer,
yes.
Nice.
Yes, I've climbed Mount Hood. I've climbed in Oregon, the highest mountain in Oregon. I've also done Mount St. Helens,
nice,
as well as half of Mount Rainier. I haven't made it to the very top yet, but it is on my bucket list. I think if I were to win Miss Washington, I think it'd be so iconic to take the sash up with me.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
I've always wanted. I have a lot of friends who do mountaineering and done the. I don't forget what that. There's like a trail that kind of goes around Rainier. It has a name, but it sounds like something that I should do someday.
Yes.
But to do it, it's like the cost and like the timing. It's like it takes a lot of time.
Well, you can also get. This is a little REI shout out. You can get little mountaineering packages for the weekend too that are only like $40. So if you ever do get into it.
Oh, but those aren't guided, right?
They're not guided now,
Yeah,
but you get the gear
for
the weekend. Yeah.
Well,
but
go ahead.
Yeah.
So we're talking about we're talking about we're prepping for competitions.
So for fitness, that's just kind of something that I've incorporated into my life. So preparing for that phase of the competition, it's something that I love to do anyway. So it's never felt like that difficult for me. I kind of encourage everybody to run. And then we have evening gown, just something you feel confident in, usually is what I recommend to people. And then we have onstage question, which, oh my goodness, is like the hardest thing I've ever.
So that's your weakest category? Or is that like you're most nervous about that one?
I think I get probably the most nervous about that one. I've never absolutely fumbled the ball, but it is a little difficult because you never know what they're going to ask you. And at state, they usually ask you political questions or like world questions. So they'll ask you about like, how do you resolve the conflict between Israel and Palestine? And you have to just think right there, just like on the dot. And that can be a little nerve-wracking in front of a bunch of people.
I could not do that. Is there a talent?
There is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a talent phase. I don't get as nervous as I do for onstage question, but it's probably my weakest phase of competition. That's definitely what I'm focusing on the most for Miss Washington. I play the piano.
Okay.
But when you get nervous, of course, your hands start to shake a little bit.
What do you play? Do you like classical, jazz, pop?
Never actually had a piano lesson. So I taught myself.
Wow.
It's not that great, but I mean, I taught myself piano when I was 11 or 12 because I love that you highlight musicians on your podcast because I do feel like a strong connection with music. And I think it should be taught more in schools because when I was 12, I lost my grandmother, which is something, I mean, we deal with loss. Everybody does at some point in their life. But as a 12-year-old, I just didn't really know how to cope with that. And my family had a piano in our house because my sister took lessons. And there was just one day that I went downstairs and I just started playing and I just played to cope. I didn't know how to deal with those emotions. And that was kind of where I did that, I guess.
Yeah. Did you like start doing it in high school or anything like playing like in band or anything like that? You just kept on teaching yourself?
Well, I was in jazz bands, but I played the saxophone.
Oh, so you know how to play music?
Yeah. But I couldn't read piano music necessarily, but so I created a song. It's called Mary's Song for my grandmother. And I actually did play it I haven't played it in a very long time, but I played it at the Miss Spokane competition. And I guess I won, so it couldn't be that awful.
Right. Well, I'm so interested to get more into like the Miss Spokane.
Yeah.
I always play a game in the middle of my podcast because I like to throw a monkey wrench into the podcast for some reason. But I want to bring it back to Spokane, and it's called the Spokast Hot List. I'm going to say a word, and you're going to say the first word that comes to your mind as it relates to Spokane.
Oh my gosh.
And
okay.
The first one I always start with is as it relates to Spokane, like first thing, like it doesn't have to be like, don't think too much about it, but like when I say coffee, don't say Starbucks.
Got it. Yeah.
I'm just joking. Park.
Pavilion.
Coffee.
Indaba.
Ooh. Can we talk about beer? Brewery.
I'm over 21.
Okay, perfect.
I'm 27 as of today. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday. That's amazing. Oh, it's your birthday today?
It is.
Oh my gosh. You should not be at a podcast.
No, this is what I wanted to do. I told you, Tuesday.
Brewery.
No lie.
Perfect. Artist.
My brain jumped to Sydney Sweeney.
That works.
Acting is an art.
I love it. She's got me a lot of followers over the last couple weeks. Burger.
Yeah, burger. I just feel like there's a really good burger here that
there's a lot of good
shout
burgers.
out, but I Frugals.
Okay, I mean it's right on the campus.
Yeah. And it's frugal.
They're very cheap. That's true. I've never had a frugal burger. Are they good?
They're good.
Shopping.
The mall.
The downtown mall?
Yeah, with the escalators. I think it's so cool.
Sweet treats.
Birdie's Pie Shop.
Oh, that's a great one. I that's where my old studio was. It's right in the building right next to it. But they opened right when I left, so I never got to go. And I don't think I've ever had a pie from Birdie's.
It's good. You got to go. It's right next to the courthouse too.
Yeah.
So easy access for me.
Breakfast or brunch, like not which but where.
Calico Kitchen.
Ooh, that's been mentioned multiple times on here, and I've never gone. Neighborhood.
The Logan. I have to.
Is that where you live?
The Logan. Oh, no, it's not where I live, but in undergrad, that's where all the undergrad students all gravitate towards. And you live with like all your friends. It's so fun.
My friend, I've interviewed her before. She owns the Logan, part owner of the Logan Tavern.
Oh, cool. Good place.
Really good place. Event.
Bloomsday.
I like it. And what is the best competition in Spokane?
The Miss Spokane competition. But I also have to shout out Lilac because we're having the Lilac coronation soon on April 13th. And from my understanding, it's a bunch of like senior high school girls.
I think senior high school girls from every high school in Spokane County, I believe.
Yeah. I have to shout them out.
Yeah. No, I used to work with a former Miss. What do you call it?
Lilac?
Is it Miss Lilac or is it just like the Lilac? Oh, Lilac Queen. Lilac Princess. There we go. So you get to be a part of that, or you just get to support it?
I'm gonna go. I mean, I would like to be more involved because I am the Miss America organization. They've really upped their age a lot. And so I feel more like a mentor towards younger girls who are in high school. Yeah. Especially because I've done a lot of prevention education trainings. I'm also a self-defense instructor for young girls as well. Yeah. And so I would like to kind of have a conversation with them and talk to them about higher education and what they can do to like achieve those goals. Cause I've kind of, I mean, I haven't achieved all my goals. Like I haven't ran Boston like you, Brennan. But
I haven't ran Boston.
Or qualified.
I've qualified and then 2020 happened. So it never happened.
Yeah.
But that's so cool. I mean, that's definitely being a mentor for those ladies. Ladies. I don't think they're called ladies, girls, young women. I feel like you should be a part of it. You're Miss Spokane. And so that is something that is interesting about the Miss America rules this year. And it's something I kind of know about because I think I mentioned off air is my cousin's wife, Brittany. She competed for Miss Tennessee because she won Miss Columbia. She got a new lease on life because they changed the age range. Like, so they changed it considerably, right? Or is it like...
Yeah, they've slowly changed it since COVID started. So I want to say at first they changed it to like from 24 to 26 or 25, and now it's to 28.
Yeah.
And honestly, I love it because, and I'm going to rant a little bit about this because I think it's just like the coolest thing. And I think it's something that not a lot of people really recognize, especially in the Pacific Northwest where it's not as big of a thing here. But the Miss America organization or opportunity has really followed the female American dream. So it started in 1921. And at that point in time, it was like, who's the most meritable? And so it really, that's what it was about. And because that was the female American dream at that time. And so you had these women getting their waist measured, and not great when you look at it now, but that just shows how far our society has really come. And that kind of developed into who's the most talented woman. You want to be the most talented and the most marital woman. And then that developed into, okay, who is the most like educated? So it turned into more so like a scholarship organization where they focused on sending girls to college because they wanted to go to college for the first time. It wasn't like a huge thing.
Yeah.
And then now today, I call it the I am era, which I love so much because that's kind of where the female American dream has come. It's about, okay, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer?
Yeah.
And so now I get to be someone who, I'm 27 as of today. And I understand, like, I'm still doing pageants. I mean, if our two presidential candidates are going to be like over 80. So if they can run a country, then I can be in a pageant. Okay, people.
100%. No, that's really cool. No, I think it is important. Like my daughter is like 8 years old and to have like my wife is an accountant. She got her CPA
that's so
license.
Cool. Yeah,
she's a Gonzaga alum. Nice. Like she did it all in 5 years. Yeah. And now she, works in corporate America and has a really good job and like is a boss. Like she's a really amazing woman. And like having my daughter look up to women like that is very important for me.
Yeah.
And to have, someone like have a Juris Doctor lawyer that's competing and like but you're actually practicing too. Is really cool. I want to talk about that more because we never kind of went away from that. I know we're kind of jumping all over the place here, but what was like what was your start and like what was your kind of, you worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office?
So in law school, you're required to have an externship.
Okay.
And I'm sure you know this because I did the same thing to you to get on this podcast. But I just kind of found one of the attorney's emails and I just emailed her and I was like, hello, my name's Julia. And I would like to be an extern for the United States. And she just invited me on and I spent a semester, my entire last semester of law school, getting to work on the federal level and representing the United States in federal district court.
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah.
What kind of law is that? Like, what do you?
Criminal law.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did a lot of drug trafficking. I didn't do any trials while I was there, but I did do like detention hearings and things like that. I worked on a lot of sentencing memorandums. I worked on the most notable, I think, was probably I did child sexual abuse cases, like sentencings for those, and read through some investigations on that as well. And that's kind of what I want to go into. It's called special assaults, and I'm an aunt of 3 young girls and just working in Title IX as well. Before going to law school, I kind of have a place where I just feel very compelled to work on cases like that. And so I got to have that opportunity while I was there. And it's not for everyone, but
I was going to say like that has to be difficult to
it's hard
to see those types of cases. And like, you have to like kind of just take yourself out of it, or like, I have to imagine that emotionally at the end of the night, like it has to be difficult.
It is. And even with the job that I do right now, there are difficult days and it can be very, very heavy because with the law, a lot of the times you're seeing the worst of the worst, but at the same time, you're seeing a lot of people who are hurting a lot, whether those be victims or whether those be individuals who are defendants who are suffering from addiction. So yes, it is difficult, but again, I run, and that's kind of how I help process that a lot, and going for long drives as well.
Yeah. How does like taking what you do professionally transition to like competing? Like, how does that help you? Like, is it just like, I feel like being in probably like a courtroom has to be so much more stressful than like competing. Like, I imagine like it's just like it's probably like a lot easier. Like, not easy, makes competing like a lot easier, or a little bit easier. Am I saying this right?
No, I know exactly what you're saying, and I still get nervous when I do compete in pageants and Miss America stuff. But I think it does help, because I'm used to, when I do go to court, getting kind of ripped apart and put on the spot by judges, and I have so much respect for them, but it can kind of hit the ego a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
It puts you in your place that maybe you don't know as much as you think you know after 7 years of school. But then transferring that to competing for pageants, you have the interview phase as well, and then the onstage question where they ask you on the spot just random things about the world. You never know what you're gonna get, but yeah, that definitely helps.
So let's go to like this recent competition you did for Miss Spokane. How long is this process, and when did you decide like I'm gonna go compete for Miss Spokane?
Well, I did compete last year, and I got first runner-up to Noelle. She's fantastic. She's a news broadcaster in the Tri-Cities.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so she's super cool. And then I just decided to come back. I didn't know if I was going to or not. I was like, maybe I should just focus on work. But then I realized, I am a Juris Doctor, and the Spokane community is so special to me at this point, and it's so big, and there's so many opportunities to just make an impact on individuals, and I like to hope that I do that through my capacities as a Juris Doctor and practicing law in the community, but I just kind of wanted to take it a step further and maybe be a mentor to young girls as well.
Yeah, no, and so the competition takes place over a couple days, or is it like a full day of just like a lot of interviews and competition? Because I know there's private part of it too.
Yeah. So we have practices throughout a couple of weeks, and then we have at least this time, the Saturday before, we had an interview with the judges at the library. Thank you to the Spokane Public Library for letting us use your rooms. And then the next day we had the competition at the Bing. So 2 days, I guess.
Yeah. And I gotta ask, like, when you were going through the process of it, how much like caring about winning or like placing, how much are you thinking about that?
I mean, it's really changed over the years, because when I started when I was 17, I was like, I just want to win, like that's everything. But going through these organizations and these different local competitions taught me a lot of resiliency that I didn't know at the time I was ever going to need. And I think from that and from losing, I mean, I lose. I'm in court a lot. That's just kind of a given. Like, you're going to practice law, you're going to lose some, you're going to win some, right? And so I just try to relish in the growth as much as possible. And there were some competitors this year. The first runner-up, Ashley Wells, she has a pageant history as well. Fantastic, phenomenal singer, and also a PhD student at WazU. Yeah. So you grow just by being around the other young women as well.
Yeah. How, like, so then you won. Like, what were the emotions for going through that?
I was very excited. I have a lot of friends who are local title holders, so I just kind of wanted the opportunity to go to state with them. But I also had a lot of plans already in my notes section of my phone of what I wanted to do for Spokane. And again, at the same time, I knew, like, whatever happened, like, I was still going to try to impact this community somehow. Yeah,
I should, like, you posted on Instagram, like, you expressing like your openness to be involved in like local events, causes. Like, when you win Miss Spokane, like, does that come with, like, do you do appearances? Like, what comes with it? I'll
spend the next year doing a lot of community service. So this last Saturday, I drug Jeremy, my director in the corner over here, and I also have a team. So Miss Spokane's team, Sammy, I drug them to a Habitat for Humanity event where we just painted the inside of a house.
Nice.
Which is really cool. I didn't realize how big they were in this community.
Yeah.
And I'm also looking at other events this weekend. So we're doing like a little photo shoot, and I want to run Bloomsday as Miss Spokane. I want to run the Windermere Marathon in May as Miss Spokane. I want to work with, it's called Helping Captives. They work to end and prevent human sex trafficking, and then other organizations as well in the Spokane area. So I have a list that I'm going to get to. And I mean, I messaged you just about right away.
That's awesome. Well, like that's what it takes. Like, so honestly, like, because like you said, like you didn't say this, but like it's represented here, and more people should know about it because
they should.
Because what comes with it when you win, but you get scholarships.
I get scholarships.
Yeah,
I get the ticket to go compete at Miss Washington. But again, like I really just want to be involved in this community a lot more than I already am. And I mean, I can't say I would have gotten on Spokast if I wasn't Miss Spokane, maybe, or other opportunities as well. I want to represent what the Miss America opportunity stands for, which is strong, accomplished woman. So running Bloomsday, getting involved in the local traditions, because I mean, I think our organization has fallen a little off the grid from COVID with being involved in those local traditions.
Yeah.
And so I want to highlight those.
Well, I help organize a race in the fall called the Boulevard. And it was like, it's kind of like the new, we're calling it like, it's not associated with Bloomsday, but the former race director of Bloomsday runs it. And you've got to be involved in that somehow.
I would love to.
And he would, and John Neal, the executive director of it, of Community Cancer Fund, would definitely want you to be a part of it. So we'll definitely get you involved in a race here in Spokane.
Yeah, I would love that.
I want to ask, like, so you're going to go compete for Miss Washington. So when is that? And like, what's the prep for that?
That's in July. It's I guess like the last week of June going into the first week of July. So we do a lot of community events the week leading up to the competition. So I'll head over about a week early, but then the 5th and the 6th is when Miss Washington is. So I'll be able to compete on those days. But leading up to that, let's see. Well, I've been working with Bartell Music Academy. I haven't told my director this yet, but with music lessons.
Oh, nice.
So I'm trying to really focus in on my talent phase of the competition. But again, like if I'm Miss Washington, I want to make sure that my impact is felt in the Spokane community first and foremost as their local title holder. So
what can the Spokane community do to like help support you? Like what else can we
invite me?
Just invite you to things like
I want to come. Yes, invite me. I want to be there. I want to spend as much time as possible. I don't care what it takes. Just if you have an event that you think maybe you should have Miss Spokane, I don't gotta wear the crown. I don't gotta wear the sash. I can get my hands a little bit dirty. Like I just want to be involved.
That's awesome.
As much as possible.
I mean, that's what like Spokast. I mean, that's what I'm all about for my podcast. Like in making podcasts, like everyone podcast I try to do here is community oriented, trying to like shine a light on people doing great and amazing things in Spokane. And you're definitely doing that. Like because like I mean, I don't volunteer nearly as much as I should, and like you're out there doing it, and you're also like you're working in local law. We need more people like you that want to lift up Spokane. Like I don't want like this whole Sydney Sweeney thing, this reel that kind of blew up and has like over 1 million views, over a couple, like almost 1,000 comments. There's a lot of negativity about Spokane. And like the purpose of the Spokast is to like dispel that and like just show the cool things that are going on. And like, and I feel like that's what Miss Spokane's doing, is trying to
I love it here.
Shine a light on the women in our community that are doing great things, because that's it's an opportunity for them to go and be a part of this. And even if they don't win, they still get to be a part of it, and people get to see that they care about this community.
Yeah, and you grow a lot when you compete also. And I just want to make it known, like I've had a lot of failures in my life as well. Like it hasn't been like smooth sailing for me all this way. Like I don't want it to sound like it was easy. So if like you do want to be a lawyer, or you do want to be Miss Spokane, or you want some sort of goal that you want to accomplish, just know that it wasn't easy for me either. That's just kind of part of the process, and you grow a lot from that.
Yeah. One of the things that I really loved about your Instagram post, I kind of got everything from like one little post, but I had so much in it. But you mentioned that it's not just your year, it's our year. And like, and you talking about being involved in the community.
Yeah.
And what role do you see like Spokane? I know we kind of already said a lot of this, but like engaging with the community and being involved, like where do you see like what needs the most help in Spokane?
Well, so as a candidate for a Miss America organization, whatever, local, you do get to pick. It's called a community service initiative.
Okay.
Or a platform.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning this.
Yeah. And so I do have my own, and it's called the Red Lips Project, and it's an acronym. So it stands for Redefining Love and Partnerships. It's not like a specific organization. It's just a mission that I've set for myself. And basically it's focusing on relationships. It used to just be about gender-based violence, but I wanted to go a little bit broader than that and make it about what does love look like? And I know that sounds so cheesy, but it's just like we're hurting, man. Like we are like, we see everything that like Hollywood puts out and like in the movies and shows and songs and music. And it's just like, like that's not love. Like love is supposed to be kind and like patient. And so that's kind of what I focused on. I think that really translates to other bigger issues like domestic violence, like sex trafficking, which is something that I want to work in as well, like child abuse. But it just goes broader, so it encompasses more people as well.
The sex trafficking thing is like something I don't know much about. Like I think it's one of those words that you hear and you just like, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But like how many people are affected by that in our community? I
don't have a specific statistic for you to go off.
I feel like I'm asking you a question that would come up in like.
No, it's okay. I'm sure I've gotten this question before. Honestly, Jeremy, care to? It is a problem in our community. It's a problem all over the United States, and I just don't think people understand that. And I think they hear about it in the media, but they're like, no, like that doesn't actually happen. Like that happens in foreign countries. That doesn't happen in the USA, right? But it does. And actually, we were talking about sports earlier, but the Super Bowl is a hub for sex trafficking and kidnapping. And so there's actually mission trips that go down there. It's just strictly for that cause during the Super Bowl. There's just not a lot of light shined on it. When I was, again, working in the Seattle area with the Seattle Police Department, I did respond to individuals who were being bred for sex trafficking.
Oh, wow.
And that's something that the organization Helping Captives that I talked about a little bit earlier, as well as there's another organization called the Jonah Project. They focus on that in the Spokane community.
Yeah, I've heard of the Jonah Project. That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't, well, it's not awesome, but it's cool that you're
people
talking
are doing
about
things.
it. People are doing things and talking about it because there needs to be more people talking about it. What's next for you though? Like, what are you're practicing or you're getting to the point of?
I am, yeah.
You've took the bar again.
I did.
And how long do those results take to get back?
I'll hear by the end of April if I passed. I feel confident. Knock on wood.
That's a lot of, I imagine, a ton of studying.
Oh my gosh.
I watched my wife prepare for like the CPA exam.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't think it's nearly as like
credit to her. Credit to her.
I don't think it's as intensive as the bar, but it's hard, I think.
It was about 3 months and I took it twice. So
3 months of studying twice.
3 months of studying twice. So 6 months studying, but also lots of money.
Yeah.
Lots of money. You have to pay for a specific course to take that kind of teaches 13 different subjects of the law that doesn't just include what you want to focus in, but also wills and trusts and secure transactions and contracts and property. And it's just a lot.
Yeah.
I hate it.
That's what it sounds a lot like the CPA exam. Like it's like my wife doesn't even do accounting and like any type of accounting anymore. She's in like financial advisory stuff. And when you take those tests, you got to know all the parts.
Yeah. You have to know all of it, but it was very difficult, but I've really challenged myself the last couple of years, and failing that bar exam was really hard. But like I said before, like I failed at other things, and I had a very unconventional law school experience, and that involved.
How so?
Yeah. So So how it works is you study for 3 years, but during the summers you do internships.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or you work at firms, and I didn't really get that because I actually contracted with the United States Marine Corps to be a lawyer for them.
Wow.
Yeah. And they are intense.
That's intense.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's not JAG.
It was JAG.
Oh, it is JAG.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's the same thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I trained with the office here in Spokane. They're great. They're just a bunch of great people. If you have any interest, go check them out. But they trained me for about a year. The most fit I've ever been.
Oh wow! Yeah, no kidding.
10 pull-ups.
So you're not serving. You're not in the military.
Not.
Okay.
So I ended up going. I flew out to Quantico during one summer between my 2L and 3L year, which is my second and third year of law school, and I was there for a good chunk of time. And then I was the top ranked female candidate for physical fitness. I was feeling good about it. I was so excited. My grandfather is a Purple Heart veteran, so I wanted to honor him in some sort of capacity. I wanted my Juris Doctor to really mean something to the country and to, my family and my community, whatever community I was in. But unfortunately, I ended up getting COVID while I was there. Yeah. No. And I had kind of an adverse reaction where like part of my body went like completely numb. So I was medically dropped. And so it was so disheartening. So that's why I always bring up failure, because I'm like, that was just the worst. How am I going to get on that plane to come back home after working so hard and like facing my grandfather and facing my family, and like that failure was so difficult. But all of that to say, I came back, I got on my feet after a few days, not doing so hot. And I ended up writing research. I submitted it to the House of Representatives for Washington State. So I worked with them on a directed research study on the topics of fertility fraud. And then
That's so weird that you brought that up. We were talking about fertility fraud the other day. My children are born via IVF, and the topic came up of fertility fraud, and I was like, "This is a thing," and like you can get in trouble for it, and like this is a whole like.
You would not think that a doctor. So, for those listening, fertility fraud is when a doctor replaces the agreed upon reproductive material with their own, and do not tell their patient. So it's a huge thing. And it's actually happened to like more than 50 doctors have done it. And you just wouldn't think that you would need a law on that because it's so unconscionable, but I guess you do. And so all these states are now rushing to just like pass these fertility fraud bills so that they can hold these doctors accountable.
Of course, yeah.
The Washington one just actually passed the Senate. So we're just waiting on Governor Inslee to sign off on it to make it a law. But it's great news. But yeah, so I was able to do that. So I got back on my feet, and then I worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office after that. And now I love my job. I get to be Miss Spokane.
Yeah.
So all of that to say, my point being, I'm rambling a little bit, but my point being, if you fail, there's other doors that will open for you.
100%. I totally agree. I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't been a part of a business that failed and then it made me like pick it up and like start podcasting by myself.
It's just so normal to fail.
Yeah, no, very much. It is. Over this next year, and then you can't compete again, correct? Or can you?
Not for Miss Spokane, no. And
you can win once.
I'll be 28 next year.
Oh,
so
God.
I might age out. So Miss Washington, if you're hearing this, I'm ready.
Well, that's exciting. Well, we'll all be cheering you on in July. That'll be. I'll definitely like make sure I have some clips so we can like promote you.
Thank you. It means a lot.
I hope you win. Because it's like it's all how many different people compete for Miss Washington. Like I'm guessing it's like I actually saw the map.
24, 25, 20, 26.
The one thing I was surprised about was how many people compete for Spokane, because it goes all the way up north, and you said there's down to Walla Walla.
It's like I think this time around is the whole east side of the state.
Oh, wow.
We have a lot of local organizations on the west side of the state.
Yeah.
But over here, there's just not a lot of representation. And that's also why I'm trying to be so involved in the community, because it's such a powerful organization and opportunity for young women. I mean, look at me. I'm not just Miss Spokane. I'm Miss Spokane JD. Right? Yeah. I got those credentials.
Yes, definitely.
So I just can't promote it enough. But yes, and I think if I did win Miss Washington, I don't just want to abandon the Spokane community, because it is such a high honor to be Miss Spokane this year. I definitely want to bring the state title to this side of the state.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't see her very much around here, and we got to drag her over here and then go win up. We got Sydney Sweeney, but how cool it would be if we had Miss Spokane who became Miss America. Like, that would be just the coolest
That
thing.
would be really cool.
Yeah.
That's so true. Like,
yeah.
I don't know I feel like you're a great candidate. So
Thank you.
There's so much we could talk about, and we could go on forever.
Mm.
I love Spokane, and I love that you're representing it and doing what you're doing. I feel like, do you have plans to try to be in Spokane for a long time, or do you see yourself like, I'm for people leaving Spokane. I understand that it happens, but like, you have to be here for at least another year, right?
At least another year. Yeah. No, I definitely plan on staying.
Yeah.
Again, I adore my job.
Mm.
So I adore the type of work that I do and my coworkers. So I just can't imagine leaving that job anytime soon. So yeah, I would like to stay in the Spokane community. I am from a really small town. I grew up in a town of like 800 people.
Oh yeah, where'd you grow up?
It's called Seabeck, Washington. It's teeny tiny. It's like up on the inlets.
In north or south of Seattle?
West.
West. Oh, like, because you like
like directly west.
Directly west. Okay.
On the Hood Canal, kind of towards the Olympic Mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a town called like Brennan with an I over there? Like, I remember we used to drive to like Port Townsend.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go through the Tacoma Narrows Bridge.
Yeah.
We would drive, and then we'd go like kind of like do this kind of roundabout way up to Port Townsend.
Bremerton?
No, and there's a town. We drove through this town. It was called Brennan, but it was with BRINNON. And
just
that's
like you?
It's almost just like me. So I was like thinking maybe it's because that's also a very small town.
Yeah, there's a lot of little itty bitty ones over there.
Well, Julia, thank you so much for coming on Spokast. Mm-hmm. Please like shout out like all the people or whoever you want to like promote, like please like take your time to like say out, give all the plugs.
Oh my gosh, well, we do have a lot of sponsors that are quite amazing. Let's see, first and foremost, we have Windermere. They sponsored us. I know I'm gonna miss some on here. Eclipse Power Yoga. They gave me a free membership for a year, and it's like, I looked up the price. It's not cheap. So if you're a Miss Spokane, you get that.
Nice.
So compete. I also want to shout out the Brazilian wax company, European wax company.
Yeah.
They gave us all these like lotions and serums while we were competing, which was super cool. I want to shout out Jeremy, my director, who's in the corner over here. I know there's other sponsors, but I don't have the list with me, which is terrible, but I'll get to you on Instagram or something.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. And my family, of course. And of course, I have to shout out the Zags.
Absolutely.
I gotta shout out my Zags. They're the reason I'm here, man.
Yeah, go Zags. I'm very looking forward to. I'm going to be in Boise this weekend, so I will not be in Spokane to be hanging out with family and stuff like that. But I'll be watching down there. I was like, oh, it's only like a 4-hour drive, but I'm like, I can't do that. But I'll be rooting hard for them.
Yeah.
Hope they can make it to the Sweet 16 for like I forget if it's the 8th or 9th time.
Yeah.
But the last question I always ask on the podcast is, why Spokane?
The people. Absolutely. The people are just, you don't get this type of person in like a big city or even a small town. There are people who there's so many of them. They all want to come together and do these little community events. I mean, you're here, Brennan, like you're shouting out all these different organizations and individuals who are trying to make a difference in the community. I think Spokane just really cares about the people who live in it. And that's why I'm so excited to be Miss Spokane. So if you're looking for a place that'll take care of you, come to Spokane.
Well, those are great final words. Thank you so much, Julia. I appreciate you being on. I'm excited to. Hopefully, we can maybe do a recap after you win Miss Washington. Thank you again for being on. Thank you all for listening. And until next time, peace.
Thank you.
I want to change this game like I'm losing in Madden 30-6. Like that, y'all. Some people, they fiend for things they've already seen. I think they wanted me to be like that, y'all. But it wasn't my scene. I started doing these things that made them say they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that. Hold up. Without a day, without a day. Hey, somebody better tell Ellen that I'm on the way. Somebody tell Charlamagne, hey, I'm on the way. There ain't a stage in this world that I couldn't play. Coachella with a full live band would make sense. DJ sets at summer